the issue of proportional representation. Many Kenyans have misunderstood it, but I believe that proportional representation is a solution, not the only solution, but a solution to our electoral problems. Our system of first past the post, by the way, is I think, part and parcel of our difficult electioneering process. As a multi-party democracy, we must guard against the bottlenecks that may threaten and destroy and poison the democratic space. The first past the post process has resulted in very expensive elections, in the sense that the government, and hence the taxpayer, is spending a lot of money at every election, as witnessed by the huge amounts of money expended by IEBC at every election. The cost is further increased as the IEBC defends itself in court due to the high number of petitions after every election. The cost further increased by elections, if there's a death or if there's an overturning of any election. So the cost just keeps on escalating. At the general election, the IEBC has to conduct 6 elections. That increases the cost, and that increases the confusion that we have. The individual or the parties concerned running in the election have resorted to spending huge amounts of money, which clearly go towards voter bribery, disguised as transport facilitation. This huge expenditure by candidates leads to a do-or-die contest fraught with corrupt activities. Some of the candidates' source of huge sums of money is questionable. So it's one of the drivers of corruption. Because of this, we end up with economic instability. At every election, our economy suffers. When it's just recovering, we are heading to another election. So we end up with an economy that can't quite function optimally. Then one of the unexpected results of this first past the post is poor leadership. Due to the nature of our elections, it is very difficult to cultivate a well-structured succession planning for political leaders. In fact, after the next 3 cycles of this kind of first past the post elections, we'll have a problem with the sort of leaders we will have. Because whoever has the money will ride. And that does not equal to the best. So if we continue this way, I dare say or guess that after 3 cycles, the quality of leadership we'll have will be very questionable. The issue of the bloated assemblies we keep on talking about because of having to nominate so many people will not be there. So we've been talking about the cost of government. That cost will come down tremendously because you have removed all those additional baggage that we've been carrying in the pretext that we are trying to reach gender parity, which we have failed completely in the National Assembly or in the Senate, although we have succeeded in the county assemblies at the risk of bloating them. So that a county like where I come from with 45 wards has got 60-something MCAs because of the nominations to reach gender parity, which will not then be necessary again. I'm not saying that it's a panacea to everything. It has its pitfalls. But as a nation, if we are determined to move in that direction, we can do it. Remember, proportional representation is used in virtually all of Europe except France and the UK. And look at the kind of politics in France and the UK. Terrible politics. First past the post. If we were, as African countries with our ethnic divisions and so on, if we were to go through the sort of turmoil that the UK went through recently, can we really survive as a nation? Look at the French system with their first past the post. But when you look at the rest of Europe, Germany, a strong economic power, you look at all those. If you look at South Africa, for example, after Mandela stepped down and then Thabo Mbeki took over, when Thabo Mbeki had to leave, they didn't go for a presidential election. They didn't. The other day they removed Zuma. They didn't have to go for an election. They didn't. Here, you are spending money on by-elections. You are spending money when an MP dies. You are spending money when an MCA dies. If you get proportional representation, the next comes in. You don't have to spend money on by-elections and things like that. And yet you are able to control so that you don't have quacks and charlatans with money in their pocket getting into the leadership positions. Because so long as we continue having that kind of system that anything goes, then I'm afraid we'll not be able to have the quality leadership that we want in this country. It has its drawbacks. We need to re-educate the voters who have been used to fast past the post. Party primaries must be well controlled to ensure that you are getting the right people on the party list and not using again the same money to corrupt the new system, because there's that danger. So we need to look at it that way, because it's not. And we need to, amend several laws: the election laws, the Political Parties Act, the IEBC Act, and things like those. But generally speaking, it's a system that has worked. And remember that countries like Switzerland are also in a way multi-ethnic. Many countries in Europe are in a way multi-ethnic, be it Belgium, be it Germany itself. They speak several languages, so they are in a way multi-ethnic. But this system appears to have worked very well for them. If we don't do that, I'm afraid that we'll keep on talking about gender parity, but to achieve it will be at great expense. Because right now, the only way you can achieve gender parity is by nomination. And if you go by nomination, then you increase your cost of government much higher than it should be. So it's a system that needs to be looked at. I believe when we talk of one man, one vote, I believe we are talking about proportional representation. Because if I stood with him for an election, in party A, he's in party B, I win, he loses, but I only beat him by 100 votes. If I got 30,000 votes and he got, and he got 2,000, if I got 30,000 and he got 29,980 votes, his votes don't matter. I won. His votes don't matter anymore. They are forgotten. So his voters feel disenfranchised. How do I possibly feel that I'm in charge of that constituency when almost half the voters were not for me? So I think it's something that we need to look at as a nation, and I plead with the Building Bridges initiative. When we keep on talking about one man, one vote, let's make every vote count. The only way every vote counts is in proportional representation, not in fast past the post. Fast past the post means some votes, in fact a lot of votes, are just lost. Why are you spending money to get people to vote, yet their votes don't matter? Let every vote count.